Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
All right, welcome. This is Evan Francine. This is episode 65 of the UNSECURITY podcast, and the date is February 3rd, 2020. In studio with me is none other than Mr. Brad Nye. Howdy, Brad.
Good morning, Evan.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Are you a morning guy or a night guy?
So I've always been a night person, but with kids, that kind of changes things. So yeah, now I'm in early in the morning, and that way I can have nights and weekends with the kids. So
now you're a morning guy.
I force myself. I'm still a night owl if I like on the weekends.
Yeah.
I was up till like 1:30 watching Netflix on Saturday.
1:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's.
Oh,
it's because it's quiet.
I was asleep by last night. I was asleep by 8:30 last night. Then my wife came to bed and woke me up at 11.
You're here like crazy early.
Yeah, I am. I'm a morning guy. It's the only time of the day when I can get something done.
It is true. I have noticed that. So yeah, I've been coming in between 6 and 6:30, getting an hour and a half or 2 hours of time. Yeah. That's about all the earlier I can come in. I just can't make myself wake up any earlier.
So do you see yourself sort of transitioning into a morning person more and more as you get older? No, maybe.
I still don't like it, but I do enjoy the time to get stuff done while I'm not worn out from the day.
Yeah, it's quiet. The thing I don't like about this time of year is it's dark. Like the first 4 hours of my day, it's dark when I get up.
Yeah, you are up at like 3 a.m. though.
That's true. I am. All right, so we really do have a great show planned today. I think some passion will come out of today's talk. We have lots to talk about, definitely. We're going to talk about this industry's money grab. And this is something that, you're going to hear me probably. Hopefully I won't swear, but I'll say some things, that may not be politically correct, may offend some people.
Controversial.
Have I ever offended anybody?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, all the time.
You're not doing your job right if you don't offend somebody at some point.
But before we dig in on that, I always like to catch up with you. We originally started this podcast as an opportunity for you and I to visit, and it gave listeners the opportunity to sort of listen in on, what do security people talk about?
Yeah.
So I like to catch up. That's one of the reasons why I catch up, kind of early in the show. How you doing?
Good.
Did you have a good week?
I did. Yeah. It's always fun. We're growing like crazy, and it's kind of fun to go from that. 20-person company to 80 and the differences, and we're finding things that we're like, oh, well, we shouldn't have been doing the thing, like just business processes and things that we're like, oh yeah, we should probably fix some of that stuff. And but it's cool to have like the maturity to be looking for those things,
right?
Instead of just kind of like, oh yeah, this is how we've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I see that too. This year was the first year I sort of detached myself from the budgeting process. And then, Friday we had an executive leadership team meeting, and there was some discussion about something in the budget, and they looked to me to make a decision. And I was like, I wasn't prepared to,
I wasn't paying attention.
Well, no, I was paying attention, but I wasn't prepared to make the decision.
Right.
But then it reminded me that, I do need to stay involved in the business side of things. So I spent the weekend, kind of just going through every line of the budget, just so I understood it more than trying to change it,
Right.
As you kind of figure out what the direction of the company should be. In 2021, 2022, 2023, what does a healthy information security consulting company look like?
Mm-hmm.
We already know we have a healthy culture. We have healthy people. We have healthy values and morals. how does that translate into healthy financials? Right.
Yeah. Sustained.
Yeah.
Successful growth versus.
Right. So those two things have to play, hand in hand. So, that's what I spent, the latter part of last week. I don't remember the early part of last week. I think Monday.
You did some travel.
Oh, crap. I did.
Yeah.
That's right. That was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last week I was in Rochester, New York for an hour meeting. Fly out there, have your meeting. Great meeting. Man, I love those people out there. I won't tell the company name or anything, but just really good meeting. And then, to get back quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Those in and outs are, I don't know, those wear me out. Yeah.
Well, when you change time zones too, because I left here Monday afternoon, got there Monday late at night, the hotel.
Right.
Hurry up, got to sleep, and then had the meeting in the morning. So it's just, the night in the hotel, get up, get dressed, get some breakfast, and then head to your meeting and then head back.
That's the unsexy side of the consulting.
Uh-huh.
It's like people don't like, oh, you get to travel to all these places. Yeah, I've been to cities. I haven't seen a lot, right?
Well, and last week I had a discussion. I had a great discussion. Ryan and I had a great discussion talking about K through 12 and how we're going to tackle that. Chris Roberts and John Gates. Really good discussion about, how we're going to tackle these issues. I learned some things, I learn things every time I talk with others, but Chris Roberts shared his schedule with me. And I was like, holy buckets. Yeah, I got nothing to complain about. That guy's all over the country all the time. I don't know how he finds time to write some of the stuff he does for LinkedIn.
Well, when you're on the airplane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't get myself to work very well on an airplane.
No,
can you?
I'm so, oh, no. Just cramped and. Yeah, I try and it doesn't work. Yeah. But I can read books.
You're a speed reader.
That's the one area, because then I can not have distractions, put in headphones and.
Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. Busy as always. So the first topic for for us to discuss is the discussion about this money grab thing. In my opinion, in just looking, you and I have both been in this industry for a long time, and we've seen lots of things. In my opinion, the money grab is definitely alive and well. Everybody wants your money.
Yep.
And it's not just the bad guys. The good guys want your money too, or air quotes, good guys.
Right. So
what I want to talk about in the money grab is, let's talk about some of the things the bad guys are doing, and some examples of, that money grab, which seems obvious to some people. To others, even if it seems obvious to you, there are new things happening all the time.
Yeah.
And then the good guys are after our money too. And then I wanted to kind of finish up this discussion about us. Let's look at us. Let's look in the mirror. What part do we play in the money grab? FRSecure and Security Studio, because we're human too. I mean, it's not bad to have money. Money is a good thing. It's when you love
when that's
money.
when that's your sole motivation is more money. I think that's where you get into trouble.
Yeah. So let's talk about the bad guys. So in 2018, the cybercrime industry, so it's now an industry. It's been an industry, was worth at least $1.5 trillion in the year 2018.
Yeah. And we know that's going to double for 2019?
I don't know.
It's going to be a
lot. 1.5 trillion. Do people even understand what trillion is? I don't, hardly.
Yeah, it's funny when you start looking at some of the breakdowns on how that is. It's like, if you spent $1 for every minute, if you had $1 trillion, it would last X number of years. It's like centuries or something. It's just,
it's a staggering amount of money, and we're still fighting the same things. Phishing, that's still a problem.
Oh yeah,
it was a problem back in the first time I ever saw a phishing attack was 90.
Well, wasn't that
something?
Yeah. Remember, I Love You virus. That was all through email.
So here we are. We've
yeah.
lost God knows how many billions, trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And we're still here.
Yep. Yeah.
So what kind of progress have we really made?
That's a good question. I think that the companies that are more successful, that have made progress, have really focused on that education and almost rewarding the behavior of identifying and not being afraid to say something.
Right.
And, not punishing it.
Right.
But there's still, I think that a lot of that, well, I can't say anything because I'm going to get in trouble.
Right.
And that's a failure for our industry of not getting that message across better, that a good security program and a really good indicator is there are more reported suspected incidents that you're looking at. Hey, I think this was going on, or
right.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of finger pointing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people pointing fingers at the fact that, $1.5 trillion. And then we point fingers, well, it's management. Management doesn't take it seriously enough. Or it's users aren't smart enough. They say, well, they're not educated enough.
Yeah, nobody wants to
take
thing. Responsibility in any way about it.
Right. And then we try, the human firewall. We're all in this together.
Right.
It's everybody's responsibility. It's like, no, I get paid pretty well to make it sort of my responsibility.
Right.
And that means it doesn't mean I don't get other people involved. It doesn't mean we don't work together. But at the end of the day, if I'm the CISO and I've been hired for this, and I like to simplify things. I have two jobs, right? Consult executive management on risk and then implement their risk decisions, right? Two facets. So either I'm not consulting management well. I like to look in the mirror for our problems first, right?
Yeah.
And I think all of us could probably stand to do that a little bit more. Am I consulting well? Because if management isn't involved and they won't take it seriously, maybe that's me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a reflection of how well I communicate with them. Maybe I'm not speaking their language. Maybe I'm not understanding what their motivations are and fitting security into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, so kind of going back to our conversation about the last week, I think almost all of it that I found, it's a communication, right? It's miscommunication. It's us making an assumption of, well, they said this, so I assume this is what it is.
Right.
As opposed to, actually taking that initiative and following through and truly understanding motives and what's being done and how can I support that.
Right. So if it's a management issue, that's me. I view it that way.
Right.
And if I just have crappy management that just won't listen no matter what I do, well, then I go find a job somewhere else.
Right.
Suppose allegedly we have a talent shortage issue in the industry. What if it's a user issue? Is that my problem too?
Yeah.
Right. Because the people that work behind the computers are not stupid.
No.
They are very, very smart at what it is that they're paid to do. Right.
Right.
They're in their position because they
hopefully you wouldn't hire them if they weren't good at their jobs.
Right. And so you look at, well, then ask yourself, why do they keep clicking links?
No, I think.
And don't just chalk it up as, well, they're human.
Right. No,
that's true. Right. But do you just, then just accept it? Or maybe you do accept it. Maybe, some certain percentage of people in your company, you expect to click links. So then what are you going to do about it as the CISO?
Right. Yeah. What controls can you put in there, right? Making sure people aren't local admin, making sure that, the access controls are proper so they don't have access to things. So when they click that ransomware, it doesn't encrypt the entire network drive or whatever.
Exactly. And so, and then at the end of the day, who delivered the email to their mailbox?
Right.
IT did.
Right. Yeah. Why don't they have this originated outside the organization
or something
simple?
Well, and understanding how security works too, it's not all about prevention. So where I can't prevent some things from happening, do I have something in place to detect it and then respond to it? Right. And nowadays, and we'll get to this when we talk about, the good guys too are involved in this money grab. we talk about zero trust. Great. Zero trust has been a concept since forever.
Right.
But now we're going to call it zero trust. So hopefully we can sell some more things.
Yeah. The new marketing phrase for it.
Right. You should have always been doing zero trust from a security perspective, if you really wanted to do it right. Right. But the problem is businesses didn't really want to do it right.
And it's hard to do, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Right. I was actually just talking to somebody last week that they had an incident and they got their servers ransomed, and luckily they had phenomenal. Their backups were all standalone machines with each had their own local, user accounts that were completely segmented from the domain, and so they were able to recover. And then it happened again, so they were able to recover again. So we're working with them and got it under control. So they're functional, but a couple of the C-levels met with us and they're like, well, what can we do? What would be the best practice? And I was like, well, just whitelist only. Right. The problem is if you don't do it right, it takes down the business, or it's very disruptive. Right. It takes a lot of work to test it. And even then, it's not 100%.
Well, and why don't people... I think the biggest reason why people don't whitelist is because they don't understand the environments that they're even responsible for protecting.
Oh, yeah.
If I knew how my applications actually communicated on a network, who they communicated with, how often, how much traffic, if I knew my own environment, I might be able to whitelist.
Well, and I think that's what turns a lot of the people. That's the hard work.
I don't want to learn.
Yeah. I don't. Hey, it's working.
Right.
Why I call attention to myself when I break something.
Right.
And, that's not. Yeah.
Well, and in some cases, I was working with one organization, and still am working with them, but this particular project is over. It was, adversary obstruction, mm-hmm. right? And NSA a few years ago wrote, some pretty good guidance on it. And it's essentially zero trust, right? Assume an attacker gets in your environment. What do you have in place to obstruct them from getting other places in the environment, right? Because attackers, almost all of the sophisticated attacks are pivots, mm-hmm. right? They didn't just hit the gold mine on their first shot in the environment. So part of the adversary obstruction stuff is network isolation, right? Mm-hmm. Whitelisting. So in order to do that, I have to look at every one of my applications and figure out how do they actually communicate. Are they on their own isolated, mm-hmm. Segments? And
so, it's funny because I think it's this week. I don't even know anymore. My calendar is crazy. I have a conversation with a company that's looking to expand to China. And they're like, what should we do? I was like, don't
expand to China.
And well, we're going to. What should we do? And it's going to be exactly that. It's got to be complete isolation. You have to have whitelist only. You can't and assume anything you make accessible will be compromised, reverse engineered, whatever. What is your worst scenario for your solution, right?
Yeah.
Because plan for that to happen.
Exactly. So when you look at the money grab from the perspective of the bad guys, the $1.5 trillion in 2018, the saddest part about that is just how easy we made it for them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't difficult. It's not difficult to scam people out of their money. And one of the reasons why that's true is there's really no low that's too low.
No.
For an attacker. Right?
No, they don't play by the rules.
I mean, and they could just care less, right? So recently we've had the coronavirus, mm-hmm. out of the Wuhan in China. And so, you can predict that there's going to be phishing scams about that. So that's, floating around right now. One of the things we saw last week, and it was Roger Grimes, it was a post by Roger Grimes on Twitter, where he posted this Denison extortion. Did you see this?
No, I hadn't seen that.
So the attacker set up a website called Denison Extortion. It's still live as of right now, even though the timer has expired. And it says this. It says, because of Robert Dennison failed to take very simple security measures on his devices, I hacked into all employees' Google accounts, and they were hosted under the domain name of DennisonYachtSales.com. All company leads, accounting archives, employee social security numbers, employee signatures, including the data that was sent from clients of Dennison Yachting to the mail accounts of the company, is under my control. So if you ever conducted business with Bob Dennison, your private data might be in my hands right now. What do I ask for? I want Bob to send 15 Bitcoins to this Bitcoin wallet address. And then he lists the wallet address. What will happen if my demand won't be fulfilled? ? When the countdown here finishes, and so yesterday I was on it, there was 11 hours left.
Okay.
So it's over now. When the countdown here finishes, all the data that mentioned previously will be publicly available for anyone who visits this webpage. Bob, this was your fault. Don't make other people pay for your fault. For any questions, reach me at DennisonExtortion@protonmail.com. If this website shuts down, you can track the countdown on DennisonExtortion.com. Right? So this is, I assume this is real. I mean, I didn't do any research on it, but
right.
Robert Dennison, who owns a yacht company, who, you know, I don't know him either, but, you know, just a guy making a living, running a business, serving his customers, doing the best job he can.
Yeah. Yeah. Is now.
This is what some jackwagon does to him. And I get it that it's easy. It was easy for the attacker to do this, but that doesn't make it right. And the fact is, you're ruining people's lives with this stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't care. I wouldn't expect them to care. But we have this mentality. Like, do you think Bob Dennison, prior to this, do you think he was one of those guys who thought this will never happen to me? I don't have anything that anybody would want.
I'm sure.
I mean, the common excuse.
Did he even think about it?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my bigger thing, is maybe not so much, well, it won't happen to me, but just not even being aware that this is an issue.
Right. So I'm going to go to that website. I'm going to go to DennisonYachtSales.com.
Yeah. That's tough. I think, and, you know, not, like you said, not knowing anything about that organization, you know, if this is a smaller, I don't know how big they are, but I'm going to guess probably not a huge company.
Right.
And now they got issues. Well, I don't know. They actually says they have their 24th office. They should be pretty good size.
There is the DennisonYachtSales.com web server cannot be found, but it is a legitimate boat dealer in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah.
Good ratings, 310 customers, 4.2 rating on Facebook. Nice boats too.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, that's tough. You never want to see, you know, a business being taken advantage of like that. But at the same time, yeah, there has to be some responsibility by the businesses to understand that this is a risk and they got to do something.
Right. Well, and the point, I mean, the point is, you know, there's no low that's too low. And I think one of the reasons why, you know, Bob's yacht company was left exposed is because I don't think our industry really cares as much about Bob as Bob and others might think, because we're all fighting after the 10% of people that are actually doing security stuff.
Yeah.
And we're not really doing much for the 90% who aren't. The basics. Right.
And, you know, looking at that site, I mean, these are expensive boats or yachts that he has. So
right.
You know, it's almost more going after his clientele than him, right?
Oh,
the people that can afford $14 million, $20 million yachts.
Right.
But Bob has a responsibility to his customers.
Well, sure.
But to take advantage of that is pretty crappy to, basically blackmail them.
Right. Well, in hindsight's 2020 too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't know what Bob. I never interviewed Bob or talked
Right.
to Bob. It'd be cool to get him on the show.
Yeah.
But the wounds are probably
that's a
bleeding.
tough one.
But I think the point is a lot of times we think, oh, they would never stoop to that level, and they always will.
Always will.
It's all about the money. They could give two craps about anything, your feelings, your business,
they don't
your
care.
livelihood, nothing. It's all about how much money can they make off of you, in this case, trying to get 15 Bitcoins.
Which really isn't a whole lot from what we've seen.
Right. And what's to stop? So this is assuming that this attacker even had Bob Dennison's information. What if he didn't? What if he just made the website DennisonExtortion.com and just put this message up there?
Yeah.
Maybe nobody hacked into Bob's yacht company.
Right. He just got the
damage is kind of already, could it be already done?
Right.
Because people won't know that. And if I were Bob, it's not like I would advertise it. Yeah, it was hacked, customers take your boats at other places.
Yeah. Well, and that's where we go back to the reputational hit.
Right.
Are those people that can afford those yachts going to want to do business with somebody where this is out there or this happened?
Yeah. So 2 points. One, the cybercrime, the bad guys, they're making boatloads of money. The money grab is alive and well, and there's nothing that they won't do to get at your money, including, and one of the things we don't talk about much is human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
I came across an article, in Forbes magazine that the human trafficking industry itself is worth over $150 billion. And this I don't know, this all pisses me off, but this one more so because, it's more than money,
mm-hmm.
right? If you stole my money, I can make more money.
Right.
When you steal a child's innocence, they don't get their innocence back.
Man. Yeah. And there's a bunch of stories out there about how this happens, and, even quote unquote legit sites that turn out to be not legit. Right. There was one, I saw a story about over the weekend that basically had blackmailed a bunch of women who had gone in and thinking one thing, and now they sued the company and have taken control of all the assets. But for however many years, basically women were being blackmailed into porn. It's ridiculous.
And so the reason why this affects, so here's the deal with information security. Information security, privacy, and safety can no longer be separated. They're all interrelated. So to think that, human trafficking isn't an information security issue is wrong. Because these things are being tracked. These things are happening online. Right. And some of the people that are involved in human trafficking, either on the supply side or on the use side, right? They're going to porn sites on a regular basis, which feeds this whole industry, or they're, engaging in prostitution or whatever.
Right.
That's what feeds this. If there wasn't any money to be made in human trafficking, you wouldn't have human trafficking. Yeah. And some of the people that are doing this kind of work are people that sit in offices, and they sit in your office. Yeah. And you have no idea. Right. And something as simple as, web content filtering, something as simple as, egress traffic filtering might tip you off on something. I'll give you a story. One of the time I worked at a very large bank, and it wasn't human trafficking, but we saw a bunch of weird things on our web content filtering. And I worked in the threat and vulnerability team. So we had incident response. We monitored and took down phishing sites, that thing. This is back in the early 2000s. And so we started this investigation of why are we seeing this unusual traffic going outbound to weird websites, right? So you back it out to, found out it was a senior vice president of one of the bank branches in California. And what he had on his computer was, and this is back, when gigabytes were like, that's a lot of data.
Right.
Had a gigabyte of animal porn, right? Animal human being
right.
things. And so, and I don't know how much people know about, just deviant behavior, but it's like an addiction, right? And it's like a drug addiction, right? You did it once, you got your high.
You got to,
it was good. But now you want a little more because the high you had last week ain't the same as the one you're getting this week from the same amount. So you get a little bit more,
right.
You get a little bit more. Next thing you know, you find yourself so far and so deep into this. And that's what happened with this person, right? He didn't start with animal pornography. Right.
And just, it's interesting. I think anybody who's been doing this for any length of time has seen something like that. I know I've gone through the same thing where we put in some web filtering and it was somebody who'd been with the company 25, 27, somewhere like a really long time.
Right.
And you start seeing the traffic and you're like, well, why is that getting flagged? You start looking into it. And then the worst part for me is always, going to HR with a documented case and having to explain to.
When you can't unsee the stuff you saw in the investigation, right? I can still remember some of the pictures I saw 15 years ago, 16 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, we kind of joke about it to some extent where it's like, oh, I didn't even,
But I think that's kind of a coping mechanism.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You have to. It's like, why would, oh God.
Right. So $150 billion.
That's crazy.
And this is one of those things. And the reason why I bring it up here is to support the fact that there is no low that's too low.
No.
For people.
It's all about the bottom line. Can I get dollars?
Exactly. And there are an entire town. I can't remember the name of the town, but in Mexico, one of our listeners might want to email. There's a town in Mexico that is all about human trafficking.
Mm.
Like the whole town is established.
Wow.
Around that, and the police protect it. I can't remember where I saw it, but so what can I do as an information security person? Well, understand that this is an issue. It's a real issue, and be on the lookout for it. Be aware of it.
Yeah.
If you have the time, if you have the skills, start getting really involved with OSINT. I know there's all sorts of OSINT communities that are trying to hunt down these people and work with law enforcement. Because nothing would break my heart more than, my daughter.
Oh yeah,
falling prey. As a parent,
but
watch what your kids are doing.
It could never happen to me.
Exactly. Yeah, Bob thought that.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
So as a parent, don't be ignorant about this. It's a thing, and it's getting worse, and it's getting worse. And as long as we continue to just allow it to get worse, meaning we're playing ignorant, it'll just get worse. More victims, more money. And it makes everybody's job harder, right? Because if you're not protecting your children and they're successful, that's just more resources that they can use to get after my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to, nice cheery Monday morning.
I was going to say, nice light topic.
Right. But this is all around the money grab. It's all about dollars.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
There are other things, there are other motivations for stealing information, but by far and away, the number one motivation for stealing information, and that's just one way, right? Also changing information. Let's not forget the basics, the fundamentals of what information security is. It's not just confidentiality. It's also integrity and availability, right?
Right.
CIA, all you security experts out there.
Is my bank account actually what it says it is?
I'd love to add a few zeros to mine, but somebody would have to pay for that too.
Yeah.
All right. So the bad guys, we don't know them, but we know that they're what motivates them. But this is one of the parts where I don't think we think about it often or maybe we do. Maybe that's why, maybe we do think about this, but the good guys too.
Mm-hmm.
And I say good guys in quotes, because the good guys come off as good. They think they're good. Maybe they think they're good. Maybe they know they're not good, but it's under the premise that they're good.
Maybe more like legitimate business versus like the hacker.
A legal business.
Yeah.
Even some of the legal business stuff, though, when you look at what our industry does, any other industry, it would be illegal.
I'm not going to argue that. I would agree, but trying to better define.
We extort each other, too, in this industry, or borderline extortion, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So this year, or in 2019, Gartner estimated that that industry spending was $124 billion. So if you put that into context with, what the bad guys took, $1.5 trillion, we spent $124 billion in 2019. And by some estimates, we're expecting that to grow to $170 billion by 2022.
So, I mean, you can understand why people would be in it for some money.
Right.
There's a lot out there.
Well, and I added a note to the show notes too, because I add this for context only. I don't mean to imply that all of that is wasted money.
No.
Some of the money is very well spent. There are great companies in this industry. So I don't want to, this isn't a condemnation of all of our industry. But what it's a condemnation of is certain motivations of dollars that are spent in our industry are completely wrong.
Yeah.
And so what I talk about is, what I'd like to talk to you about is, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Just scare the crap out of somebody and they'll buy something, if you can hit that nerve.
Yeah.
And then the sexy stuff. FUD and sex both sell.
And, to me, being and talking with customers, it's a tough line too, right? Because people aren't maybe as educated. So what you're coming across with is, hey, here's the realities of the situation. They're like, well, you're scaring the crap out of me.
Right.
Well,
there's the good. There's the good scare. There's the moral scare, and then there's
if you don't do this, if you don't use this,
right, this
is going to happen to you.
Well, and behind all of it is my motivation.
Yeah.
When I talk to somebody, I know what my motivation is. If my motivation is purely selfish, meaning I just want you to spend some money with me. I got bills to pay. Baby need a new pair of shoes. You know what I mean? That's one motivation. Another motivation is this is what's right for you. I know that it's what's right for you.
Yeah.
I've been in this industry for a long time. I know you. I care about you. Yeah, it's going to cost money, but that's secondary.
Right. Yeah.
So if I use fear, knowing that my motivation is that, like, look, Johnny, you're going to get hacked, like, guaranteed.
Right.
And I'm not telling you this because I'm trying to say, actually, here's a free tool. Use something free if there's something available. That's different than, scaring the crap out of somebody and then saying, hey, buy this $250,000 thing that I got. It's got AI.
Right. Well, it's machine learning.
Blockchain things.
Next gen.
You need to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it implements the zero trust that we're all looking for.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it is. Yeah. It's what your motivation is. What is the kind of the mission that you're trying to advance, right? Is it just simply dollars in, or is it something else?
Well, and some people because people in this industry, it's confusing, especially for non-security people who haven't been in this industry for a while. It can seem really confusing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got so many buzzwords floating around, so many different things that I need to be concerned about. I go to one vendor and he's telling me I got to buy this thing and it does all these things. And if you don't have these things, then, you're just up doo-doo creek. And then I talk to another vendor and he's like, no. That's good stuff, but you got to put this stuff in first because this is way more important than that stuff. So, and it doesn't even matter if you have budget. You need to do this as an off-budget expense. I mean, you've read the news, haven't you? I mean, are you living under a rock? I mean,
and it comes out that they don't even have inventory list.
Right.
Like
when it ends up being all this lipstick on a pig
Right.
stuff, right? I keep buying a bunch of stuff,
Well-
and then how many times have we done an incident response where
so many times.
where executive management is like, I thought we were covered for this.
Yeah. We're spending X amount a year.
Right.
How'd this happen? Because it was not set up right.
Right.
Because you didn't have anybody monitoring it. Because
Right.
no network segmentation. It doesn't matter.
And you don't
if
even
you
know
got all these
yourself.
things. Right.
You don't even know yourself. You don't know what applications you have. You don't know what hardware you have.
Why is this application running as administrator on every workstation?
Because I didn't know any better.
It was hard. Right. The vendor said that's the way to do it. Did you question that?
So I'd love to see, and you're starting, I think, in this industry to see more people starting to focus on the fundamentals, I hope, because that's your answer.
Well, I mean,
that is absolutely 100%, no doubt, your answer.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I guess it goes back to motivation, but we do it all the time. Like if I come in as because like our VCSO program is very popular. It's one of our fastest growing. Well, what does this include? Well, it's the base level. At a minimum, I know you need this, but until I do that risk assessment and figure out where you're at, I can't, I'm not going to sell you whatever IR plans and all this other stuff. Why are you going to have a pen test if you've never done a vulnerability scan?
Right.
Like, let's start and understand where we're at. And that's going to define and drive where we're going from there.
And there's so much wisdom in that. I mean, take cyber out of it. Take information security out of it. In anything, the better you know yourself, the better you're going to be able to protect yourself, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's been that way since ancient times, since the beginning of humans.
And yeah.
And it's like, great, blinky lights, got it. Fear, got it. How well do you know you?
Right.
Look in the mirror. So that's the part that really frustrates me, is because you just keep putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. You just keep putting lipstick on the pig. It's not fixing the fundamental root of the problem. No.
Well, like you say, if it's insecure at the core, it doesn't matter what you layer on top of it.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
So companies that really, I think, serve you well, and it's funny, I'll talk about this when we talk about, advice to give to boards. I was in a board meeting last week and I gave 3 bits of advice to them. That was it. Just 3 bits. Give them an update on where they're at and all that other stuff. But then those 3 bits of advice, I think, are really important, and it plays into this. Another point, with the good guys is it seems to me like everybody is fighting for your money first and foremost over your security. And I bring up conferences here, next week, month, whatever. I'm going to RSA. And I was going to write a blog post that I'm going to RSA next month, and I already regret it. Because it is, in my opinion, it is such a money grab.
Yeah.
I mean, it's expensive to go there. It's expensive to attend. It's expensive to, if you're a company that's got a pretty cool, innovative product that you want to display there, well, it's going to cost you $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 to get a booth and put it in there. A lot of companies don't have that. And what if my technology is the basics, the fundamentals, the unsexy,
right?
Right? Are you going to stand out at RSA? That's the number one thing that we need in this industry. But
no, yeah.
You go to RSA, and last year I went to RSA just to see Roger Grimes give his talk, and so I flew in, got there about 30 minutes before his talk, attended his talk, went out to lunch with him and his wife, and then flew away. That was all I could handle. Actually, I was in Tina Fey's. I did visit Tina Fey's keynote.
Okay.
Because that was more entertaining than
Right.
anything else, right? They're not going to sell anything.
No.
Tina Fey's not going to sell me a security product.
No.
But man, there's so many booths and there's so much money being floated around there. And it's like, for what?
Right.
Are you actually fixing anything? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
And Black Hat, I used to love Black Hat. back, in the earlier days when you learned stuff there.
Yeah. It's funny. You're mentioning that, and I'm just thinking how many times we talk to somebody to try and understand and scope it out. And it's like, well, how many devices do you have? Like routers, switches, workstations, servers. I mean, it's got to be 85, 90% of the time. They're like, how much? Oh gosh, let me think about that.
And then you ask, well, just give me a ballpark. Is it more than 500 or less than 500?
Oh man,
geez, yeah.
It happens all the time, and then
it's probably more. And then you find out it's like 22,000.
Right, and it continuously blows my mind. And then we find is there's some correlation for a number of employees with devices, and typically with pretty most of the time, and so start doing that, and you just it does blow people's mind. They're like, that does sound about right. And then I always want to just bang my head on the desk, like, sounds about right.
Right.
How are you buying endpoint protection? How are you buying any of these things if you don't know? Or right. If you've bought it, how do you not know how many licenses you have or what you're using? Like,
or 5 of them go out the back door.
Right.
I mean, would you even know?
Do you have any sort of, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not going to rip too much on conferences, but I do remember the day when you could go to conferences and the primary thing was learning stuff, not buying stuff and selling stuff, and I miss those days. I know that there are still conferences out there like that, but these two are the biggest 2 conferences in our industry. Mm-hmm. And there's many, many millions of dollars being floated around out there. And that wouldn't bother me too much either. But going back to the motivation isn't to do what's best for you. The motivation is to get you to buy something.
Yeah. Which
may or may not be what's best for you.
Right.
I don't, as the salesperson, I may not even care.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I make my quota.
Right.
Right. So companies, too, we have in our industry, there's lots of new companies popping up all the time, new consulting companies. Mm-hmm. The sad thing is sometimes they're giving bad advice, right? They're not taking people because we already know what the biggest part of the answer is to focus on the fundamentals, to focus on the basics of information security. That's not the blinky light. It's not compliance. Mm-mm. It's start with how well you know yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of companies out there now, I think but they come and go. I've seen this since we started FRSecure in 2008. We've seen some start and they fade away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting to, again, that is one of the things I do enjoy talking with the customers and stuff is, hearing what they're hearing from other people and other companies. And there's a lot of churn.
Oh, well. So be careful. And I did put borderline extortion there. There are a couple companies. I'm not going to mention them by name. But you know who I'm talking about, probably. Where you're forced to do things. If you want to do business with me, you're forced to do this, forced to get this certification, forced to do that. Or I could run a scan of you and tell you that your score really sucks. And if you want to get the details about your score, it's going to cost you.
Yeah. But in the meantime, or even if you want to challenge it, or it's like, hey, that's not right.
Right.
You still have to pay. And you're getting dinged for something
In other industries, that's illegal.
Yeah.
Just saying. In information security, we accept it for whatever reason. All right. So, anything else to add on that? We could talk all day about money.
Yeah, we could probably, that would be, we could get controversial on that one.
Well, I'd love to talk specifics. I really would. I think when I retire maybe in a few years and I'm not tied specifically to, where I can be a little more off the cuff. I'd definitely like to call out I'd love to call out some people.
Yeah.
Specifically. And I'd love to call out some companies specifically. because it just makes everybody else's job harder.
Yeah.
When you have to go in behind and clean things up, it's sad, because who ultimately suffers isn't me. It's
Right.
not the person who gave the crappy advice. It's the customer.
Mm-hmm.
That really, really makes me pissed.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a dangerous world, and people, non-information security people, and I had probably some security people too, are generally confused. But, you know, and even that point, I wonder how much of that is on purpose. If I keep you confused, then chances are probably better.
You're just going to trust.
Instill some fear.
Yeah, you're just going to take my advice.
Right.
Yeah.
So enterprise organizations, they can afford, you know, I think in most cases, to make mistakes, or they can afford highly skilled people that with tons of experience that can make better, wiser choices on information security. So it's not the enterprise that I'm really all that. I think enterprise organizations, most that I speak to, you know, have pretty good controls in place. There's a lot of bloat maybe and politics in some of those, but in general. But where my heart goes out is certainly the smaller players who kind of left out in the cold. And they're suffering because a lot of these cool things that people are buying or creating and selling into our industry, the SMBs can't afford it anyway. So they're not really focused on SMB.
No.
And SMBs are the ones that, you know, the underserved markets like the SMB, local, state and local government. Most cities don't have enough money to buy the latest ML thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, K through 12.
Yeah. And that's not where the dollars are. So they don't focus on it. And then it's this nasty cycle that they get left behind.
Right. And so what I would like us to focus on is these underserved markets to figure out how to serve the SMBs well, to figure out how to serve, because most of the market is there, figure out how to serve, you know, state and local governments, K through 12, higher ed.
I mean, I was talking to somebody, I don't even remember, last week or the week before, the last couple of weeks. And they were asking about, you know, what's our client size? And it's like, you know what, here's the thing. If we start with the fundamentals, you know, there's what we keep talking about between that 20 and 2,000 employees, there's 3 million companies. Yeah. Well, let's focus on the fundamentals for those and then scale up.
Right.
That's easy. But if I take an enterprise solution that a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 1000 is going to have and try and shove it down the throat of a 75-person company, it's never going to work. Mm-hmm. But those fundamentals that work at 75 are going to work at 75,000.
Exactly.
That doesn't change. So let's focus on building this correctly and then scaling it as we go.
Exactly. And the sense of urgency that comes with that is we need to help these people because before the money grabbers do. Mm-hmm. And it's not that we have all the answers, but we know for sure that our heart is in the right place. Right?
Yeah.
With respect to the money grab. So, and that's where I close off the money grab piece is, you know, at FRSecure and Security Studio, we're humans too. I mean, barely, but we are.
We are not robots.
No. ... But one of the things that keeps us honest is mission over money, right? We have this mission to fix a broken industry. We will make money. The company is growing. We will improve and get healthier as we go in terms of profitability. And we are profitable, but I'm talking like even better as we figure out scaling things that you're working on and those other things. But we can't ever lose sight of the mission.
No. And, you know, you can tell, again, I'm going to go back to recently, you can tell when people get it. And when you're talking to them and they're like, this is great. I love it. And then, you know, you get to the price and they're like, well, this isn't nearly as expensive as I expected. I expected this to be a lot more. And you know, you always kind of go and joke and be like, oh, well, I can fix that. But, you know, that doesn't fix anything. If you spend all your money finding the problems and you don't have any money left to actually do anything about it, how have we furthered our mission? How have we made you better as an organization? And, you know, people I think it resonates. People get it. It's when you're being truthful and honest, people understand that.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
And probably the other thing is it's probably refreshing to hear because, like you said, there's so much FUD out there that people...
And put us to the test.
Right.
Right. I mean, don't just take my word for it because, but put us to the test.
Right.
You know, if we're nickeling, diming, and, you know, all these things that we're not making a positive impact on your information security.
Let us know. Call us. Tell us.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And then there's always the golden rule too, right? If you sell the customer something they don't need.
We have told people that and they're like, really? I was like, he hasn't had to do it yet. So I don't know if he's joking or not, but
yeah, you'll find out. No, hopefully you won't. Hopefully nobody will ever find out. All right. So we have this discussion about talking with boards of directors and executive management.
Mm-hmm.
We've only got about 5 minutes left of the show. So I wonder if you want to take that for next week.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good conversation.
All right.
We could spend some time on that and do justice to it.
Good. All right. So there's Brad's topic for next week. We do get it, you know, fairly often we get the opportunity to talk to boards and other executives. So we can give some good tips, I think, in that. All right. So 2 news stories I've got this week. One is hackers. This one comes from ZDNet. And the title is Hackers Are Hijacking Smart Building Access Systems to Launch DDoS Attacks. More than 2,300 building access systems can be hijacked. It says can be. It doesn't say that they have been, but some of them have been, due to a severe vulnerability left without a fix. These are attacks targeting the Linear eMERGE E3, a product of Nortec Security and Control. So,
you know, reading this, what really bugs me is that the company was alerted in May of 19, and there's been proof of concept exploit since November, and 6 of the 10 are a 9.8 or 10 out of 10 on the CVSS. Like, this isn't.
Well, this is another example too, where information security and safety can't be separated.
Yeah.
Right. These are building access control systems. So I'm assuming that there's something behind the door that you want to protect.
Right.
Physically.
Right.
And sometimes, and I don't know all the customers that are involved with this, but I'm guessing some of these might be schools.
Yeah.
Schools that, you know, children attend. And so when an attack is DDoS, you know, when a DDoS is launched and all the access control systems, now I'm not, as a parent, I would be concerned about that just because those access control systems are there to protect my children.
Right.
Not that I expect, you know, a gunman to come at that time or anything. But
right.
It's still a safety issue.
Well, yeah. If are they configured properly for fail-safe, or if they go into and get shut down from that, is everyone locked inside?
That's
you know,
that's even
like
worse.
You don't think about. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think the active shooter or anything like that is going to be the bigger concern, but there are big concerns around this.
Yeah.
And from a business perspective, I mean, it's not like it's real easy to go switch out a access control system. So if you're a customer, what's your course of action here? What can you do? You're kind of stuck.
Well, it goes back to, you know, one of the basic fundamentals, right, is to build security in at the beginning of every project, everything. So maybe one of the questions you would ask of Linear, you know, in their eMERGE E3 devices is what type of security precautions do you know?
What is your vulnerability management for your software or your products look like? And
how quickly do you typically turn around, you know, patches? Because everything everywhere is going to require a patch.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you know, so if you ever get back from a customer, you know, or get back from a vendor saying, oh, you should never have to patch this thing. This, you know, how many lines of code? Is it more than like 2? Then I need a patch at some point, right? I mean, these are developed by human beings, and human beings make errors, you know. So, yeah, it's frustrating. This is CVE 2019-7256 exploitation is what you're talking about. So anyway, if you're using a linear, and check with your building, maybe check with your building people. Because if it's affected, how many did it say? 2,300 building access systems?
Yeah.
That's quite a few.
Yeah. And it was interesting because the article is kind of playing that down. Well, it's a small footprint, but it depends on what the value is behind it too.
Right. Yeah. So not happy about that. Here's another one, the other news story. This one comes to us from CNBC, the security experts at CNBC. The title is Ashley Madison Cyber Breach. 5 years later, users are being targeted with sextortion cams. All right, I'm not going to get moral on you and say, well, you were on Ashley Madison after all.
But
I can tell you guaranteed that I'm not part of this breach, so I'm not all that concerned about it.
I feel pretty confident on this one, yeah. But it
doesn't make it right either, right?
Yeah.
So 5 years, this is still living on. And this brings up one of my concerns about lots of things, but we can all pretty much be rest assured that our Social Security numbers have all been stolen.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think by now?
Oh, 100%.
So, and why hasn't my identity been, or why hasn't your identity been stolen? I mean, it was once, I know, but why not again? It's still out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This stuff sits out there. Once it's out there, it's out there.
Right.
It's not coming back. My Social Security number is not going to like all of a sudden automatically become confidential again.
Right.
It's out there. So now what?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing with this Ashley Madison. If you were part of that breach,
it is what it is.
It's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you can't get it back. So I feel bad for you that you are part of that breach, but just assume that maybe now is the time to come clean with your significant other or whoever else might care.
Yeah.
Before the sextortion things. And then you can say, oh, honey, I told you already. I'm a changed man. It was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. Now, whatever it is. But
I
get out ahead of it, maybe.
Yeah, it goes back to your, there's no low that's too low.
No, it's all about the dollars. All right. Well, we had a good talk. I really enjoyed talking about the money grab. We could have talked for probably days about that. But that's it. Episode 65 is in the bag. Brad, you're going to talk next week about, it sounds like, the tips for talking to the board.
I think so. That's nice. A good one.
That is a good one. So tune in next week if you want to hear about that. Thank you to our listeners. We love hearing from you when we hear from you. If you've got something, look at that. My whole notes went down. If you got something to say, email us, unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you would rather do the whole social thing, you don't tweet much, do you?
No.
Yeah.
I like I said, I use it mostly for.
Yeah, I don't tweet as much as I was for a little while there. Yeah, I know. And I'm busy doing a ton of other stuff. I forget. Like, crap, I haven't tweeted in like forever.
I know. I'm like, I should do that. And then I get busy.
Yeah. But anyway, if you want to do that, I'm at Evan Francine. It's just how you spell my name with no space in between. And Brad is at Brad Nye. Same thing. Not same thing, but your name with no space in between. If you like company stuff, we work for Security Studio. That's at Studio Security, and FRSecure at FRSecure. The company people post some good things from time to time.
They're better about doing it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think they are.
It's like their job or something.
Right. All right, that's it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's unsecurity@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.